What's going on, guys? Tyson Trainer here, back with another video, and in today's episode of Sports Talk, I'm going to be covering with you guys just how the first week is going so far for me in regards to my training and kind of what I've started doing already in regards to, some calorie and macro manipulation, and also just tracking my heart rate. So, don't know if you guys can see behind me here, I got a little table. Got my goggles, for those of you listening, I'm just going to tell you. Got my goggles, got my boxing gloves, got my Polar heart rate strap and my heart rate monitor. So I got a Polar Verse, I think it's called, which sits on my arm, which has been my heart rate tracker. And in saying that, this is what I'm using to track all of my training for the first week. So what I'm starting to do first is to find out how many steps I'm doing outside of my training and not counting my steps in my training. Now, the reason for this is because I want to make sure that I'm in good energy availability, okay? And energy availability is the amount of calories we have left over when we take away training calories, okay? So the amount of calories you're going to burn during your training sessions when it comes to weights, any type of cardio, things like that. Then we also, we take that away from the rest of our calories that are remaining to figure out what our energy availability is, and it's also based on our lean body mass. So for me, because I'm sitting at about 90 kilos at the moment, I have about 78 to 80 kilos of lean body mass. Okay, so for me, I want to be in an optimal energy availability of about 45 calories per kilogram of fat-free mass, which means 45 calories per kilogram of, let's say, 80, which means I go 45 times 80 to figure out how many calories ideally I should be having for that, okay? So off the top of my head, 4 times 8 is 32, so that's 3,200 calories left over, but then I've also got to add the 5, so 5 times, I'm trying to think of here. 5 times 8 is 40. So it'd be like 3,600 calories remaining ideally after exercise to be in an energy availability of 45, right? So that means if I'm eating 4,600 calories a day, and if I want to make sure I'm having 3,500 calories left, I want to be making sure, my energy used from training should be about 900 calories. Otherwise, I'm going to have to increase those, to, increase my calories higher to meet that energy availability, if that makes sense. So with that being said, I've started tracking my calories burned during training sessions, and just to get an average of what I'll be doing, So if I'm going to be doing an hour of cycling, I did an hour of cycling this morning. I burnt about 900 calories on my heart rate monitor. Now, when it comes to trying to figure out, how many calories I actually burned, even though my heart rate monitor says 900 calories that I burnt, I didn't actually burn all those calories, because on average, we burn our body weight every hour in kilograms, okay? So this is why I also talk to you about your BMR. So when we go 24 times body weight in kilograms is our BMR for the day. That's because it's 24 hours in a day, and on average, males burn their body weight in kilograms per hour. For females, it's a little bit less, so it's 22 times body weight in kilograms to figure out what their BMR is for the day. So in saying that, if I burn 900 calories and I'm a 90 kilo male in an hour, I'm going to take away 90 calories from that, because if I didn't exercise, I would have burnt those 90 calories anyways, okay? So even though I've technically burnt those 90 calories regardless of whether I exercised or not, which means I have 810 calories that I've actually burned, because I'm just taking 90 away from 900. If you burnt 1,000 calories and you're a 70 kilo male, you would have been, and it was an hour training session, you're going to take away 70 calories from that. So that way, you're going to know you actually burnt 930 calories in that training session. Okay, so with that being said, now that we know how many calories on average we're going to be burning for my training session, anyways, my cycling, I can use that as my average. Okay, so what I want to make sure here, after I've got all my averages for the week about my training, so average heart rate for my cycling sessions, for my running sessions, for my gym sessions, and for my swimming sessions, I can add those all up together. So ideally what you'd want to do is add up all your training sessions and heart rate, calories burned and stuff like that together from the week to get an average. So let's say every day I'm burning 700 calories, okay? Like on average, so 800 for cycling. It's actually probably going to be more. I'm going to say 1,200, because for cycling and for weight training, or for swimming and for boxing, or for running and for whatever it is, I'm actually going to be expending, on average, probably about, let's just say between each session overall, let's say 600 calories. I'm doing 2 sessions a day, so that's about 1,200 calories, right? So 1,200 calories in 6 days a week, because they have 1 day off, okay? So 1,200 times 6 would be, 6,000, so it'd be 7,200 calories on average I do in exercise burnt during the week. So now that I know this, I can then obviously figure out how many calories I need to be eating in order to maintain a good energy availability, in order to maintain a good energy balance, and to make sure that I'm not, causing a low energy availability or any detrimental factors with that. So after I've been able to add all this up and calculate how many calories I'm burning and what my energy availability is, from there I can make sure I'm fueling myself correctly. So just to give you guys an idea, anytime I do a morning session, which is 6 out of 7 days, I will make sure I have high glycemic carbohydrates and a lean protein. Yeah, I guess a lean protein source afterwards, or like, a quick source of protein that hasn't got any fat in it or any fiber in it. Because what we want to do is after our workout, you know how important protein is after a workout to help recover our muscles and to also just help push nutrients into the muscles after our workout. Protein is going to be such an important thing just to recover from the training session, to get our adaptions, and to be able to, whether it be muscle mass gains or fitness level gains, anything you want to do, protein is going to be important for that, okay? Now, the reason I'm choosing high glycemic carbohydrates after my workout, to add on top, one, I need the calories. Secondly, I also want to make sure that I'm replenishing muscle glycogen. And if you aren't doing 2-a-day sessions, it's not essential to have high glycemic carbohydrates after your workout or to have high glycemic carbs during the day, even though you can have some. You'd want to focus more on low glycemic index and your whole grains and stuff like that. But for someone like me who's doing 2-a-day sessions, that first meal primarily wants to be high glycemic index carbs, because when you have high glycemic index carbs, they actually replenish muscle glycogen faster. So if I'm going to be doing cycling this morning like I've just done, and then I'm going to be doing weight training later on this afternoon, I want to make sure I'm replenishing my muscle glycogen, because muscle glycogen is going to help you with your performance, in the gym. I don't want to be dropping my weights or not being able to push as hard because I'm weaker. It also makes sure that you're going to replenish it in time for that session. Okay, so if I was to cycle this morning, but now I'm not training till tomorrow morning, I have plenty of times to refill that muscle glycogen. But because it's going to be 2-a-day sessions, high glycemic index carbs have just been shown after a post-workout, it replenishes it faster than low GI carbs, and low GI carbs don't actually replenish them as much. So we want to make sure if we're going to be doing 2-a-day sessions, we are using high GI carbohydrates after that first meal along with protein, okay? So that's going to be my first important thing. The second important thing is I'm going to try and spread these workouts as at least 8 hours apart, okay? Especially if it's going to be a weight training workout, like a growth workout ideally, and then also a cardiovascular workout activity, which would, in a way, is catabolic and breaking down the muscle, okay? So, we have these two opposing factors, and we have, a few different enzymes that are going to be switched on and off during these sessions. So one enzyme that's going to be turned on during weight training sessions is mTOR, so mammalian targeted rapamycin, and then there's also going to be things that are turned on with cardiovascular exercises such as like PGC1 alpha and AMPK, okay? So things like that, we can't always have both enzymes on at the same time. And if we're going to be having a growth enzyme off, we want our catabolic enzyme off. And if we have a growth enzyme on, we want a catabolic enzyme off. If we have a growth enzyme off, ideally, well, most likely your catabolic enzyme is going to be on, okay? And we're always going to have this little switch we're doing between cardiovascular exercise and strength training. And when I say catabolic, we don't want to think that as a bad thing, because obviously it is breaking down muscle mass, but it's also quite good for you overall, especially, just improving your cardiovascular health overall, improving mitochondrial density and things like that. So these are quite important things we also want to be doing, but we just don't want them to interrupt each other, okay? So this is why I'm primarily doing cardiovascular exercises in the morning and strength training in the afternoon, because you are stronger in the afternoon, and also, just getting cardio out of the way first thing. I have time to replenish muscle glycogen and be able to be in a ready state by the afternoon. So with that being said, I'm trying to spread my workouts about 8 hours apart, which is, quite long. So usually first thing this morning, I woke up at 5 o'clock, got to my session at 5:30, started training at 5:45 and finished by 7 o'clock, which means now I can wait 8 hours. So by that time, it's going to be like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going to go to train about 4 o'clock. So it's about 9 hours difference, but it gives me plenty of time to get at least 3 meals in. Because ideally, even though I had that first post-workout shake, I still, and with carbohydrates, I still want to make sure I get at least 2 to 3 meals in, okay? Because you want to make sure you're recovering the best you can, getting all your nutrients in, being refueled, being re-energized, feeling better, and that's just going to come from extra food during the day. So this is why I've kind of structured it like this, making sure that I am spreading out the sessions as far as I can, choosing cardio primarily in the morning. Do you have to choose cardio in the morning? Absolutely not. You can do weights or cardio. It depends up to you. The only thing I would say is if you're someone who's doing cardio in the evening, still making sure you're doing the exact same thing that you did with your training. Let me rephrase that. If you're doing cardio in the evening versus the morning, making sure you are still having a good meal afterwards with high glycemic index carbohydrates to make sure you're refueling yourself at the end of the day if you're going to be waking up in the morning going for another session, Because I'm going to be doing weights tonight, I'm going to use a little bit of muscle glycogen, but it's not going to be as glycogen demanding as cardiovascular exercise, which means I'm not going to be too depleted, and I'm still going to have a good workout afterwards. And because I'm going to now have, if I work out at 4 o'clock until 5:30, and my next training session is not going to be for 12 hours, I'm going to get a good meal in tonight that's going to be replenishing my muscle glycogen, especially while I'm sleeping at night. It's going to be coming back in, helping me recover. I'm going to wake up fresh in the morning and go for another exercise. And another thing about the cardiovascular side of things, I'm not pushing anything too hard. I'm not doing super high intensity exercise that's requiring immediate use of muscle glycogen. I'm actually doing lower side of things, so I'm trying to keep it in a zone where I've talked to you guys before. We have the aerobic carbohydrate zone, and we have the aerobic fat burning zone. So, we can use our two different fuels, and, two of our fuels are always being used. There's always going to be primarily carbs and fats being used at the same time, but the higher intensity, the more the carbs are going to be used, the lower the intensity, the more the fats are going to be used. So I'm sitting in this sweet spot at about 65% of my VO2 max or my heart rate max, which is what means I can use fat as my primarily fuel source. And if fat is my primary fuel source, it means I can go for hours upon end without having to tap into too much of muscle glycogen. And that just means that I'm going to have more reserves. If I want to turn up the intensity, and let's say on race day, I've been using fats as a fuel source, I've been keeping it quite a good pace, and then at that end push, I really want to be able to push it hard, I have the carbohydrate reserves to be able to increase that intensity without gassing out, because I've been saving, technically, my muscle glycogen for these higher intense things. So it's actually a good, for me to be able to train on a fasted stomach in the morning, which means I get to use fat as primary as my fuel source, not tap into glycogen glycogen stores, and it just kind of helps me make better adaptations and become a better athlete overall. So that's kind of basically the way that I've been doing things at the moment. I will keep you guys updated with how everything's going. I actually get my bike today, so this morning was an indoor cycling session, but it has turned to a little bit of sun here today, and I get my bike, so I might go for another cycle a little bit later on before I train with weights, but nothing too intense, just to kind of get out there. And I'll give you guys an update next week, and we'll be talking about some other things that I've been implementing that you guys might get an insight in. So I appreciate you listening, and speak to you next time.